About 3 days ago, I did my mega unboxing where I unboxed 6 Copilot Plus PCs that debuted here this week, of course, running that Snapdragon X Elite processor. I did 6 of them, 2 of which I've already done my first look review, the very impressive Surface Pro 11, and that really sleek laptop, the Surface Laptop 7 with its phenomenal battery life. In fact, both got excellent battery life considering their form factors and so forth. And one of the themes we're seeing so far is really good single core, multi-core performance, excellent battery life, and they've been pretty much running cool and quiet for everyday use. Now, it hasn't been without its hiccups, of course. There has been some emulation issues. There have been some compatibility issues. x86 apps have been hit or miss. Gaming has been hit or miss. But for doing general purpose use, web browsing, Microsoft Office, email, and the like, has been really phenomenal on this. And I like what they've brought to the table here with these very new ARM processors. Now, the next one up is probably the one I was most anticipating getting into the studio. Yes, it's the Lenovo Yoga Slim 7X, and this really brings some high-end features to the table here. A 14.5-inch 3K display, 90 Hz refresh rate. It's an OLED display, and it's simply phenomenal. We're gonna take a look at it in this review. We also got of course, the Snapdragon X Elite here. It's got some very good single multi-core performance. It runs cool and quiet, which has been the theme, and that's exactly what we've been wanting to see from a Windows laptop in a very long time, or for a very long time. So everything is so far looking pretty good. Of course, it hasn't been perfect. We're gonna get into it in this review. It comes in a gorgeous cosmic blue finish, an all metal design, and it just screams premiumness when you look at it. Hey everybody, it's Andrew, and this is my first look review at the Lenovo Yoga Slim 7X, brand new here for 2024. Coming up.
Now, before we get to the unit itself, I just want to let everyone know, in the interest of transparency and full disclosure, I'm not being paid by Lenovo. I'm not being sponsored by Lenovo. All the opinions you're about to hear are my own. Lenovo is not getting copy approval. That means you're seeing this video for the first time, just like you. Now, this unit was actually purchased with my own money as my personal unit, but I do expect to get a review unit from Lenovo very soon for the full review. Now, of course, once that review is done, I'll be sending it back. Pricing for the Yoga Slim 7X comes in at $1199.99. I actually picked mine up over at Best Buy, and that of course comes with 16 gigabytes of RAM, 512 gigabytes of SSD storage, and it has that Snapdragon X Elite processor. For those interested, I'll leave a link in the description below for more information and where you can buy one. And with the specs and pricing out of the way, let's find out what you get inside the box. Okay, so we get some, looks like some setup guide here or something to that effect. Some more product information, some warranty information, yada, yada, yada. So this is, I'm imagining 65 watt. Yeah, 65 watt USB Type-C. You can see that here. And then, of course, you get your power cord here. So pretty compact. There it is in the cosmic blue. Absolutely gorgeous. And look at that. Really, really gorgeous here. You could probably see it here. Yep, there you go. Right there. My first impression is thin and light, folks. Thin and light. It is absolutely gorgeous. Now, I'm starting to see a little bit of fingerprints, but you'll notice the Lenovo branding on here. Let's go to this camera here. So you'll notice the Lenovo branding there. Yes, I got a slippery table, so sort of can open it. Yeah, you can open it with one finger. So you get some product information, and you get some plastic-free, worry-free packaging, whatever. And that is beautiful. Wow. So that is the keyboard right here, and it feels good. It's got good tactility, good key travel. Wow, this is very light. We're going to get a measurement of the weight in a moment, but it's got a nice touchpad, Snapdragon X Elite branding. It says some information here regarding long-lasting power. It's got an OLED display, 3K, and again, goes as far back as you see here. So it actually goes back farther than I thought. So not quite 180 degrees, but pretty close. So you can get a pretty good viewing angle. And I can tell you right off the bat, not too much screen wobble, and especially when you're typing, that's good. The build is first rate. So that's a good sign here for the build. You're looking at 1.282 kilograms, and that would be 2 pounds, 13.3 ounces. And then with the power cord and the power charger, 3 pounds, 7 ounces. And if I go back to kilograms, all in total travel weight, 1.56 kilograms. And that is the total travel weight. Okay, let's check out the port selection. On the left side are two USB Type-C 4.0 ports, and I tested it with my Thunderbolt drive, my Sabrent Thunderbolt drive, and everything worked fine, so that is looking good. And on the right side is the kill switch for the webcam. You get your power button. Of course, that has an LED indicator light letting you know the device is powered on. And you get a third USB Type-C 4.0 port that is also full function. A decent port selection, and I like the fact that those USB-C ports are split up, two on the left side, one on the right side, but notably missing, there's no USB-A port, there's no SD card reader, and there's no HDMI. And the biggest omission to me, no headphone jack. Now, to get inside this laptop, it's actually really easy. There are 4 T5 Torx screws. Remove them and then use a guitar pick or a pry tool or spudger to remove the bottom plate. Take your time, work around the edges, and that's it. You're in. Pretty simple. Now, you can get this with either 16 or 32 gigabytes of LPDDR5X RAM running at the very fast 8500 megatransfers per second, and it is running in dual channel mode. Now, the fact that it is soldered into the motherboard means it's going to be the fastest it can be, but of course, it is not upgradable by the user. That's the downside of that. But what is upgradable is the SSD. Now, they're going with the smaller form factor, 2242 size. So physically, it's a smaller SSD, and my unit here has 512 gigabytes of that SSD storage. And as you can see, certainly fast enough in terms of the reads and writes for what you need this laptop to do. There's no doubt about it. But of course, you could always upgrade it yourself to expand out the storage. Now, you're looking at a Wi-Fi 7 Bluetooth 5.3 combo card that is soldered into the motherboard, not upgradable by the user, but because it is Wi-Fi 7, it is certainly more future-proof. And as far as the Wi-Fi and the Bluetooth, both working flawlessly, no issue with either one. Now, let's talk about the display. It is absolutely gorgeous here. 14.5 inches, 3K resolution, 2944 by 1840. It has a 90 hertz refresh rate. It has a 16:10 aspect ratio. They're calling it the PureSight OLED display. 500 nits in terms of brightness, standard dynamic range, and get this, 1000 nits peak brightness in HDR content. That is phenomenal. And I got to tell you, using it for the last 2 or 3 days has been fantastic. Watching high dynamic range content has been phenomenal. Now, this is going to be great for the content creator to do Lightroom, Photoshop, video editing, color grading, but I wasn't able to actually measure the display because my colorimeter, the Spider 5 Elite, is not working with this. The drivers are not working. Obviously, Windows on ARM has some issues with that. It's not an emulation thing. It's more of a driver issue. So just keep that in mind. So I'm not able to actually give you the actual metrics here, or at least not yet. I'm trying to find the colorimeter that works with that. But just judging it from the eyeball test, the blacks are really deep. The colors are vibrant. They just seem to pop. The contrast is off the charts. It looks really great. This is an overall excellent display. Now, some things to note here about the display. It's a touch display, so navigating the OS with your finger, pinch to zoom, all worked really well. Something you can't do with a MacBook. Obviously, there's no touchscreen on a MacBook Air or MacBook Pro. And it also is a 90 hertz display. That means you're going to get a little bit more smoother, fluid experience than you'd get with 60 hertz, but not quite the 120 we see, say, on the Samsung Galaxy Book 4 Edge. That review is coming very soon, so stay tuned. Now, it is a glossy display, so you'll have to contend with glare and reflection depending on your lighting condition, as you see here. So just something to keep in mind. But because it gets so bright, up to 1000 nits in HDR, you will be able to combat that for the most part. But I would say my overall takeaway with this display, it is absolutely stunning. All right, so this is the camera on the brand new Lenovo Yoga Slim 7X running the Snapdragon X Elite processor here for 2024. Finally, have it in the studio, putting it through its paces. I'm really impressed. We'll talk about that, of course. But this is a 1080p camera. It's an IR camera. That means you can log in with face recognition with Windows Hello. There's also a kill switch for the shutter, of course, that will give you more security and privacy. You got to like that. Now, this is an AI PC or Copilot Plus PC, with AI that has an NPU that helps with those kind of things. And we have the studio effects. And we have a few new things here on the studio effects. In addition to the auto framing, the eye contact, we now get portrait light here. We also get creative filters. So let's start with that. So the creative filter here is illustrated. We have watercolor and we have animated. I don't care for any of them, but you know, it's something different. And there it is. You also get the portrait light. Now, I'm not sure exactly what this does. It does something with the lighting, but not quite sure what it does, but it's there. And then of course you have the auto framing. So that would keep you always in the frame, of course. That will do a pretty decent job there. And then, of course, you have the background effects. You have the standard blur, and then, of course, the portrait blur. And then that's, of course, pretty much we've seen that before. But what do you think about all this studio effects? What do you think about the video quality and the audio quality? Let me know in that comment section below. All right, let me talk about the keyboard here for a moment. Now, the keyboard has those familiar smile-shaped keys we know from the Yoga line in other laptops that they produced, and this is no exception. Now, the key travel, the feedback, the tactility are all excellent. I found it very comfortable for typing out long documents, emails, and the like. The backlight worked really well on this against the dark keys. To see that white LED was pretty good in terms of getting work done in a dark room or a dimly lit environment. That worked well. So the overall typing experience has been really good. And the touchpad was equally as good in terms of responsiveness, two-finger scrolling, doing all the gestures. Everything seemed to work as you'd expect. Now, it is not a haptic touchpad like we saw on the Surface Laptop 7, but this is a very good regular style touchpad, mechanical style touchpad, and I thought it worked very well. Okay, let's talk performance, and this is running the Snapdragon X Elite. Now, the specific processor we're looking at here is the X1E 78100. Not the most powerful in the lineup, but certainly powerful for doing everyday tasks, Microsoft Office, email, web browsing. And as you can see, there is a difference when you're on battery and when you're plugged in. Not a huge difference, but a difference nonetheless. But doing everyday things like Microsoft Office, email, web browsing has been excellent on this. The fans basically do not kick in, and it does not get warm. It just seems to stay cool and quiet when you're doing normal tasks. Now, you will notice the fans kick in when you're pushing the CPU to a heavy load, when you're running heavy graphics and stuff like that. You will definitely notice it. Now, speaking of the graphics, the integrated Adreno graphics are not quite as good as, say, Intel Arc graphics or the AMD Radeon 780M we've seen here in 2024. Those are better integrated solutions so far. And I had to run Time Spy here in emulated mode through the Prism, and it got a score of 1,855. That's about half of what you'd get on, say, Intel Arc. So just keep that in mind. And again, it is running in emulation. And speaking of emulation, that Prism is working much better than years past in whatever solution they were using prior to this. So it is head and shoulders above that, but not great yet, at least not in the current iteration. I hope hopefully graphics will be better, and things like running x86 apps and stuff like that are a little bit hit or miss right now. Driver issues are going to be there. Older printers are not going to work. My colorimeter is not going to work. So just keep that in mind. Right now, these are early days, and I expect to see improvements over time through updates, firmware updates, etc. That will happen. But so far, I'm impressed with how cool and quiet this has been running. Now, of course, I'll talk more about this in the full review as things evolve and as things progress. It seems to be changing day to day. So we'll see how this all plays out over time. Now, hopefully you caught my review, my first look review at that Surface Laptop 7. Now, that has a 54 watt-hour battery, but the video loop test that I did, the video playback, got an amazing 20-plus hours, and that was pretty off the charts. Now, this one has a bigger battery. This is a 70 watt-hour battery, and this one, running the same exact test under the same exact circumstances, got 15 hours and 53 minutes, so just shy of 16 hours, which is pretty phenomenal in itself. Now, the reason we're not seeing over 20 hours, my guess is this has an OLED display, and that one, of course, had an IPS display, so there's the difference right there. Now, I did run this at 90 hertz refresh rate enabled, where I ran the Surface Laptop 7 with 120 hertz, so just keep that in mind. And this is also screen brightness 40%, so just keep that in mind. And also keep in mind, everybody's use case is a little bit different, but your mileage may vary. But I think the overall takeaway is we're seeing phenomenal battery life throughout all these Snapdragon X Elite laptops, and this one is no exception. Now, the Yoga Slim 7X sports 4 speakers. They're Dolby Atmos, so that'll help with the spatial audio. Now, let's give it a listen. All right, let's bring it all home. What do I think about the Lenovo Yoga Slim 7X running that Snapdragon X Elite here for 2024? I like its gorgeous 14.5-inch 3K display, OLED display, 90 hertz, of course, 1,000 nits of peak brightness, good single and multi-core performance here. It runs cool and quiet for everyday tasks. I like the cosmic blue finish, although it will show some fingerprints over time. Premium build and design. It's an all-metal design. It's got an excellent keyboard and touchpad, and I like that $1199 price point here. That is a very competitive price point considering the price to performance ratio you're getting and that very high-end premium display. Now, negatives here, the Adreno graphics are not as good as the Intel Arc graphics or even the AMD Radeon 780M, so there's work that needs to be done there. The x86 apps have been pretty much hit or miss. The gaming is hit or miss as well, so for those gamers out there, I would be very cautious right now in buying this. Some driver issues for older peripherals are going to cause some printers not to work and stuff like that. I couldn't get my colorimeter to work because of a driver issue. It's missing some AI features at launch, such as the Windows recall. That was one thing I was looking forward to, but again, privacy and security issues put the kibosh on that, at least for now. But my overall takeaway is, with the fact that I'm getting such great battery life, the fact that performance has been so good, the fact that it runs cool and quiet, I don't have to contend with a jet engine taking off every time I open the laptop. This thing has been pretty phenomenal, but it's only going to get better through time, through software updates, through firmware updates, so there's a lot of potential here. I am super impressed with the Lenovo Yoga Slim 7X here for 2024.
So please hit the like button, please subscribe, please share this video. Don't forget to leave a comment in that comment section below. Let me know how I'm doing. Let me know if there's a device or something out there you think I should review. I'll do my best to try to make that happen. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and X, the platform formerly known as Twitter. And don't forget to check out my website, amdtechreviews.com. So until next time, this is Andrew, and I'll see you in the next video.